Hey guys, Nick Evanson here. Welcome back to another demo ride video. This is the Jet 9 from Niner, and honestly, it's the most fun I've had in two wheels in quite some time. Let's check it out.
I came from the mud, there's dirt on my hands. Strong like a tree, there's roots where I stand. Oh, I've been running from the law. Hope they won't shoot me down soon. They sing on a sleepless night. Try to catch me howling at the moon.
This story starts with my buddies David, who's up there leading the ride in the front, and then Neil, who's just in front of me. Now, Neil and I have something in common. We both are riding older models of the Specialized Epic, and for the last 6 years or so, the Epic has been my everyday ride. And it's taken me to a handful of podiums at local mountain bike races and a few Strava KOMs here and there. But my buddy David, he would never own a Specialized. He's more of a boutique bike kind of guy, and so he's up there riding the Jet 9 from Niner, which is partially the reason for this video. You see, the Epic has served me well for a long time, but I think I'm about ready for more of a trail bike. I want something that's a little bit more playful and handles the descents a little better when the trail gets steep and fast. After hearing David rave about his Jet 9 and learning that my local bike shop had a demo model in my size, I decided it was time to see if the Jet 9 holds up to all of David's hype. And boy, does it. Now, before I go too far telling you how awesome this bike is, I want to take a second and tell you the three things that I don't really like about this bike. The bike I was on was the Jet 9 3-star build. Niner has a system of 1 stars to 5 stars, and you can buy them in different configurations depending on how much money you want to spend and how nice of componentry you want to have on your bike. And so the 3-star build, for me, honestly, that's probably the build that I would look to buy for myself. So I was really happy to see when Eastridge had the 3-star build in stock in my size, that was going to be the perfect thing, because it's a good balance of budget and, you know, it's XT components on it with M1900 wheels. It's a great build. Anyways, let's get to the few things that I don't really care for about this bike. Number 1, grips. Niner has their house brand grips, which they say Niner on the end of them. They're fine grips, but the biggest problem that I have with these things is this goofy motocross style fender on the end of the grip. I'm not sure what the point of it is really, but it can get in the way of your shift levers. I really don't like it, but that's an easy enough thing to change. Most people are going to change their grips anyways eventually. So I would be putting on probably some different grips. The second thing, it's a 3-star build. I don't know if the 5-star build has a carbon handlebar or not, but that's another thing. I would make an upgrade there and put a carbon handlebar on this. And the third thing about this bike that I'm not a huge fan of, it's a little bit, the geometry is a little bit off for steep climbing. And that's kind of just something you're gonna have to compromise on. The geometry of this bike, I love it 95% of the time. But on White Oak Mountain, where I ride quite frequently, there's a few climbs that get pretty pitchy, and on stuff like that, the front wheel wants to wander a bit. Not an issue I've had on my cross-country bike because it's longer and you're not seated over the rear wheel quite as much. But with this Niner, you're sitting over the rear wheel pretty well, which makes it awesome for riding wheelies. It's way easier to ride wheelies on this bike, and it's a lot of fun, super playful. The head tube angle is just right for this kind of riding that I do most of the time. But when the trail gets really steep, I've noticed that front wheel just comes up off the ground and it makes you want to ride a wheelie. And that's something that's just going to have to be a compromise, I think. It's not a design flaw, it's just a choice they made, and it makes the bike, the geometry makes the bike super playful and super fun when you're going on just flat trails or downhill. It handles everything really well, except when your climb gets pretty steep. And I mean, really steep. That's something that, you know, I don't really like, but it's something that I'd be willing to live with because the rest of this bike is so great. The bike handles really well, super playful. 130 millimeters of travel, just right for a lot of the trails that I ride. The wheels, I wouldn't change them out. They're not carbon, but they don't need to be. These M1900s are just solid wheels. All the XT components I love, happy with them. They're not the lightest in the world, but also it's a good value. They're not the most expensive, but they work really well. The tires on this bike, it has a Minion DHF in the front. Great tire, no problems with that. Maxxis Recon in the back. That's a great choice for this bike. Loved it. Some bikes that I've ridden felt really heavy and trying to accelerate felt really slow. This bike was not that way at all. This wheel tire combination, the geometry of the bike and everything, it feels like a rocket ship. It's really fast, climbs quite well, descends super well, super playful. Jumping it on the jump line, we've got the Nutty Buddy descent over here at White Oak Mountain. I ride it basically every time I'm over that way, and on this bike, it was just awesome. Way more playful than on my cross-country bike. I've ridden some bigger bikes down it, and for Nutty Buddy, you really don't need more travel. 130 is plenty. And so, like, just the extra weight of an enduro bike, it's just not for me. The dropper post works really well. No complaints about that. Works as expected. Now, I was the first one to ride this bike, so the brakes were not bedded in when I first started riding it, and so they weren't very good, honestly. But after the first ride or two, the XT brakes, very happy with them. No complaints there at all. So, you know, for a lot of people, I think this bike, it's Niner, so it's not the cheapest thing out there. I think this bike was like over $5 grand as a 3-star build. So it's, you know, it's not cheap. But, like, Niner has put a beautiful machine together. It is a pleasure to ride. My only complaints are just little things, and I would be happy to own this bike. So down the road, I don't know, I'm gonna try and ride it again, and we'll see. I'm not sure what I'm gonna end up on. There's a few more bikes I want to try first, but what do you think about the Niner? This one, it easily could find a place in my stable, and I'd be super happy with it for a lot of places that I ride. Is it a race bike though? That's a question that I don't know the answer to. Depends what kind of terrain you're racing on. A lot of the stuff that I do is cross-country races, and so I might lean towards getting a hardtail 29er for that, because, you know, I'm gonna save 8 to 10 pounds by going with a hardtail. And if it's cross-country course, hey, I don't need all the suspension, it's no big deal. But this one would easily be my everyday ride if I was to pick it up.
So I don't really have a whole lot more to say about this bike. It's been awesome. Thank you, East Ridge, for hooking me up. If you guys are looking for a bike and you want an all-mountain trail bike that's just a rowdy good time, go check out the Niner from East Ridge, the Jet 9. It's super fun. It really is the kind of bike that I could see myself getting into long-term. Perfect amount of travel, very playful, very fun. Go try it out for yourself. Catch you in the next one.